And I'm going to make it take the entire screen. All right. There we go. That's live. Oh, I will want to actually be on the presentation. Oh, wait. Leave it there for just a second. It worked earlier when I got it first set up. Oh.
Would it be like a different display?
No, it's this one, because I tried that before. Oh, there we go. All right.
Cool.
We don't need that pesky little thing. Do you want to give people a few more minutes, or?
Yeah, we'll wait. All right, at least 3.
I will just mention the actual little slideshow here is just 2 slides, and I just made them like a few minutes here. I forgot about that part.
You probably don't even use like a slide every single week if we're doing like a step-by-step tutorial.
Yeah. Well, I figure it just helps to give like a little agenda for people so they know what we're going over.
Yeah.
Maybe if I could just speak for a second so I can
Yeah, sure. Do you hear anything right now?
yeah, sure.
It takes a few seconds. I guess while we're waiting, does anyone else have a lot of exams they're going through right now?
What classes have you had exams?
Thermodynamics, dynamics, and numerical methods.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
That's all just for this week. I have a report due tomorrow.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I guess there's also a chance attendance today might be down because just the sheer amount of exams and the like.
Yeah. This past few weeks is crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird. I feel like a lot of people either had all of their exams last week
Mhm.
or all of them this week.
Yeah. Like mine was supposed to be more staggered out, but 2 of them got moved to this week all because of everything last week.
Yeah, makes sense.
I like chat.
All right. Should we just assume this is it for today?
Sounds good.
All right, let's get started. So, as I showed over here, we'll just be doing like at least the first part of the tutorial. Since we have another session for this, right?
Yes.
So this will be the first part for like a little FPS tutorial in Godot. You can use it for other stuff, but it's more in the direction of being an FPS. So our little plan for today is we're going to try and get through first getting accustomed to doing 3D scenes in Godot, then making like a player character in 3D, and then you're gonna try and use your mouse to make your character like look around and all that, so you can like change the camera or like also rotate your player character. And then we're also gonna see if we can get to doing ray casts and detect objects. So, with that being our plan, we can go ahead and open up Godot. Are you following along for today, or do you just want to watch? Gotcha. All I've done so far is just open up Godot, so I can give you like a few minutes just to get that set up. Out of curiosity, is anyone else following along? All right. I guess I'll take the moment to also note for anyone who just wants like a basis for this at some point, I will have a demo that's fully commented and all that that will be available for download at the end of these sessions. You have Godot open up? Oh no, that's no problem. I think there is an output in there. I should continue? Yeah. All right. So we'll just go ahead and open up a new Godot project. So I'm just going to call it 3D FPS demo. You can leave your render however you want. I'm just going to put it in forward plus, and I'm going to create an edit. Hopefully that won't take too long. All right, here we are. So because we're doing, of course, 3D game, we're going to open up a 3D scene. So we're just going to do that. And to start off with, we're going to go ahead and make the ground we're going to have. So to make like some sort of ground that we can use, we're going to do add child node. And then we're going to add a static body. So you should see it down over here, static body 3D. And we're just going to create one of those. So while that won't give us ground right off the bat, we'll need to give it a mesh so it has some sort of shape to have for itself. So we're then going to add a child node to our static body 3D. And for that, we're just going to add a mesh, or basically a mesh instance 3D. So we're just going to add one of those on there. And then within our mesh, I'll give people just a minute to get back to there. Are you good over here? Are you good over there? So with our mesh, we're going to go to the little empty part there. And because we just want this to be some basic ground, we're just going to make it like a sort of box. So that just gives us a square, but we won't exactly want a square, so we can just give it some big dimensions. So we'll give it like 25 in the X and Z for now. So that just gives us something to work with. Let's see. So that mesh gives us at least something that we'll be able to see for our static body. And then from there, actually, almost forgot this. When you're doing 3D stuff like this, you could go and do it the collider like how we did for 2D. But because of this being on 3D, Godot actually has another option for you, where if you go to the middle over here, and you'll see there's this little mesh button. You guys see that? You can click that. And then that also, oh, wait, that should give you, yeah, create collision shape. I guess they changed these options when I last checked. Create collision shape. And then you can choose how you want to do it. So sibling means it won't be a child of the mesh. Instead, it'll be a child of the static body, which we'll want in this instance because we want to apply that to our static body. And then it gives us a few shape options. So to try and explain this, tri-mesh is like the best in terms of accuracy. But if you have something that's very complex, you don't want to use tri-mesh because that's just going to be way too overcomplicated for what you need. It usually causes drops in performance. Single convex and simplified convex and those ones, they're better on performance, but both of these ones, like the simple and simplified and single, they have lower amounts of accuracy, and then multiple convex can be sort of like a mix of both, since it'll give you like multiple of those ones that are a little better on the polygons than the convex, but it still is not as good performance-wise as just either the single or the simplified. But for this instance, we'll just go tri-mesh, and that'll give us a little collision body. So now we'll have a working floor for our level. And with that done, we're just going to go ahead and make sure we have this saved since we're going to start making a little player person. So I'm just going to call this main game. Save that. And then I am going to add a new scene. So you can click that plus up there. And then instead of doing a 3D scene, I'm just going to go and make a character body 3D. Does everyone see that? All right. So character body 3D. So we're going to do that. So similar to the static body, we'll need to give it both like a mesh and a collider. So like before, we can go add a mesh. So mesh into 3D. And then in this case, just for like a simple player character using inbuilt meshes, we're just going to do a capsule. So capsule mesh. And then like before, we go to mesh, create collision shape. And then, let's see. If I recall correctly, you don't want to do tri-mesh. I'm trying to remember. I think you don't want to do tri-mesh for player characters when you're doing the capsules in this version of Godot. Since I've seen it gets a little weird where collisions don't work some of the time. So I think we might want to do single convex. Let's see if that makes a better shape. That might work. So if you want to select your collider, you should see these little blue lines around your mesh. So in this instance, when you do like that convex one, it just makes it all clean to it. But depending on the one you do, it might not so much. So that gives us something to start working around for our player character. And we can leave it looking like this for now, but once we get the code in, we can start messing around with how it looks and the like, so we can get something that looks a little better than just a plain old little white capsule. So is everyone caught up? All right. So I'm going to make a new script. This is going to be player script. Create that. So it does give you some basic stuff like it did in the 2D stuff. if you want to, you can just keep all that. I'm going to show you to make something from scratch. So we're just going to get rid of all that. Now to start off the script, we're going to add back in that extends thing. So extends character body 3D.
I'm so sorry. How'd you create the script?
You create a script? Yeah, you have a few options. You gotta right click on the node you want the script on, and it'll give you the option.
Oh,
Or if you got it?
yeah, and this is on the character body.
Yeah.
Thank
So we're gonna add a few variables we want to keep track of. For instance, we're gonna have a health, which we're just gonna set the 10 just for now. Then
Did you delete anything?
yeah, I deleted everything. You can keep it if you want to, but I figured I'd just show you guys how to do everything from scratch so you can have a better understanding. And then we're going to add a constant for our speed. And that is going to be 5.0, at least to start off with for now. And then const for our jump velocity. And that is also going to be 5. And then the one more variable we'll need to get our gravity. But how we're going to get this is instead of just making our own gravity, you can actually grab it from the project settings you have. So project settings, and then dot get setting, right? Yeah, get setting. And then let's see, physics. Physics engine. Okay. Sorry, this takes a second to type up. One of the reasons why you can keep what it gives you still is just because it will also give you this right off the bat. And then, yep, default gravity. So basically in your project settings, you can mess around and change the gravity in there if you just want to affect it for everything. Or you can always just set it as a variable for every little thing. So you use options there, but this is one way just to get if you want to affect every object with the same gravity at once. Now, from there, we can start adding a little bit of stuff for how we're going to be doing the camera first. So to do that, we're going to make a function to handle our input. So input. Yep. So that function there will just be getting whatever input we get. Yes?
Do function events matter in the order that they go in? Like you write them in? Like if you have a function physics process or a function event or like
So do you just mean like where the functions are in the code?
yeah.
Oh no, that doesn't matter. It's not. At least as far as I'm aware, it's not really going to affect anything. If you have like say your ready function above your input function or so on.
Okay.
Yeah. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check that input or that event variable, which is like whatever event we're getting, and we're going to see if that is our mouse. Particularly, we're going to see if it's the mouse moving. So input, then event, and then you see there are a few options like there's input event mouse button, or input mouse motion. So we use motion, but you can use those other ones for different events as well. So it's just good to keep in mind there are all those to try and use for different purposes. And then, so with that, we're just basically getting if the mouse is rotating, but we don't know how much it's rotating by just based off that code. So we're going to make this line, which is going to both rotate our character and get the amount that we're rotating by. So we're going to do rotate, and then we're going to do vector 3 dot up. Then I'll do minus event dot relative. I believe, yep, dot x. Then times, I was going to do 0.001. So to explain what this little line of code here does, rotate is a function built into this that will rotate your character by whatever amount of, I believe it's radians you give it, I could be wrong. And this is like the direction you're giving it. So vector 3 up is like I believe like just the basic like up direction or left of whatever this is. And then event.relative.x. That's basically just getting the x like movement relative to, I believe, the like a mouse motion. So that's just getting like the amount your mouse is moving in like the x-axis essentially. And then we're just doing that times 0.001 just to make sure it doesn't go flying around like crazy. So if you want to in the future, you could make it so that's instead of variable. So if you want to make it so say a player wants to adjust their mouse sensitivity, that'd be how you do it. And this will currently just make it so your character just like looks left or right. It will not make it so your player character looks up or down. That will be handled a little separately in a different thing. So from there, we're going to add in our physics function. Yeah.
So, you're using the input driven, or using the input events to drive information. You have to worry about like how often this event is triggered, or like will it be consistent rather than based on like development not keeping.
I get that. It's a, in fairness, yeah, it can be an issue sometimes. So there are probably ways where so you can base on the process function that we're going to be doing right now. But this is the way at least I know it's easier to implement since you need to be able to get that first step people like that. So,
Yeah, I was just wondering if like how that works.
oh yeah, I get what you're doing. That's what will probably be an issue sometimes, especially if you're trying to make a multiplayer game or something. At least for single player games, this works good enough that people don't usually have issues. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in gravity for a player. So this will work similar to how we did it for in 2D before. We're going to check if not, and then is on floor. So like in 2D, that will just check to make sure if your player's on the floor, or rather sees that it's not on the floor, and then it'll apply the gravity. And to do that, we'll just do velocity dot y minus equal gravity, and then we're going to do that times delta for what you mentioned before about the timing thing. So we're going to use delta there at least to help manage that sort of issue. So that little bit of code should handle our gravity. Now, next we're going to start getting into our inputs. But if you remember from before, when we do our inputs, we want to make an input map. So we're going to go ahead and go to our project settings. So go to project, and you'll see project settings. And then you'll see input map. So we're going to map our inputs. So first we'll want one for jumping. Then we check to make sure we'll want one for left, right, forward, backward, and I'm going to check. I believe we want one for shooting. Sorry, I'm just checking real quick. Is there not one for that? Yeah, okay, yeah, we do want one for shooting. So we'll just call that shoot. And then from here, we can just assign our little inputs. So for jump, I'll make it space. For left, I'll make it A. Right, D. W. S. And then when you're using your left click button for an input, usually you just need to go to your mouse button options and just click it there. So you'll see left mouse button in your mouse button options, and that should work. The other one's auto detect, but I don't think they made it so it's for the left mouse button just for the reason that if you're trying to click around to select them, it won't work. Oh, yes?
If you wanted to do like, if you wanted to have two different keys do the same action,
Mhm.
how would you do that in here?
Oh, easy. So I could just instead go to my left, I could click the plus button again, and I could just add another one. Yeah, it's very simple. And there's also ways in the code, like in Godot as well, to dynamically change these as well. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can make it so players can change their inputs when they want to. So we'll close that, since that should be all the inputs we need. So next, we're going to add in our jumping. So if input dot is action, I believe it's just pressed, jump, and then if it's on the floor. So that little if statement will just simply check to make sure we press the jump button and that we're on the floor. And then from there, we'll just do velocity dot y plus equal jump velocity. Oh, what does it not like? Doesn't like input. Oh, whoops! Forgot I need to capitalize that. There. Yeah. So that should just handle our jumping. No other code needed there. And then next, we're gonna get the directions that our player's trying to move. So we're gonna do input direction equal input dot get vector, and then we want to be based on our left and our right, forward, and then backward. So that will just basically give us a vector that will handle for how much we're trying to move from the left, right for our x direction, and then forward and backwards for the z direction. So that's one easier way to get that sort of stuff. And then we're gonna get the actual direction, which is going to be a little bit of code here. So transform dot basis times vector 3 input dot x 0 y, and then normalized. So if you guys are doing vector math when you do your unit vectors, this should be doing something like that essentially. And then from there we can use our direction that we have. So if direction, I believe that's the input. Yeah. And then velocity dot x equal direction dot x times speed. And same thing for our y. And else, flip this over to make sure I type it correctly. Velocity dot x equal toward velocity dot x 0 speed. Velocity dot z equal move toward velocity, I believe, yeah, z 0 b. So yeah, that's a bit of coding, but essentially now we use that direction thing that we just got here, and it'll be able to handle in both the x and z directions. Wait, I don't think that's supposed to be a y there, was that? Oh, sorry, my bad. This here is supposed to be with a z instead. My bad. I'll fix that real quick. I don't think we want to be traveling upwards when we're trying to go forwards. There. So that's pretty much all that movement code, except the last thing we need is our little move and slide. So move and slide. So that should be enough for all that. You guys need a minute for that to be on the screen for you to take a look. Are you good over there? All right. So I believe that should be enough for us to just save this real quick as our player. So that'll just be our player here. Oops, that's 3D. Now, the one other thing we need to do before we start trying to play is we need to actually give us a camera. So we're going to add as a child node. Then you'll see camera 3D. So I suggest adding that as a child to your character body 3D. So we're going to do that. And then you should see it's like right in the middle of it right there. You can leave it there, or alternatively, you can go to your transform options and just adjust the Y level a little bit. So I adjust it just a little higher. That's a little too high. Maybe 0.75 or 0.65. That seems okay. So let's save that.
So I can do that. Oh. Which part? The camera.
Do you need to just see how to add it in there?
Yeah.
So to add it, go to your character body 3D, go to add child node, then you'll see camera 3D when you search for it. You see that?
Yeah.
All right. So you'll add that in there as a child, and when you get it, you just want to just adjust it a little bit to make it a little higher, like to where your head would be. So you just go to your transform on the right over here, and you can adjust the Y level. You also adjust like the other parts if you want to as well. Like I believe if you adjust the Z to make it a little more negative, you can move forwards that way.
Now, if you move back into the character, will your view be obstructed?
I don't believe so. We can check just to make sure it's been lost in this version. So that part there is done. And then we can actually take our player right here. So copy that, then put in our little scene here. And we're just going to bring it up. But before we use it, we'll have to add a world environment node to all this, since you'll see right now nothing has any textures, which will cause it to look a little weird when we try and play. So first we're going to add a world environment node so we get some lighting in there so it doesn't just freak out. Oh, yes?
Wait, I'm sorry, did you copy the whole scene?
Yeah.
into that scene?
I just copied like, I can show you again.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I went to my like character scene. I copied the top parts, like the whole thing,
Yeah.
and then I just pasted it on there from the Node 3D up there.
Thank
Can you make those scenes in like the same? Can you make like both parts in the same scene and have it still work?
So what do you mean exactly?
Like, could you make your Node 3D and your Charlie 3D in the same scene, or would it get all too messy?
So like, do you mean instead of just making a separate scene for this, you just want to make it in here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could do that. I just personally make it a separate scene, because that way you're doing different levels instead of having to copy it from one scene to another. You just have one separate scene for your player.
Right.
Yes.
So sorry, combine player inputting is
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. It's because when you mess with your transform stuff,
Yeah.
you want to mess with the scaling stuff on your starting body. So you see this over here?
Yeah.
So because that character body is a child of your node, that means basically things also apply to your character strength.
Okay, so eventually back to
Yeah, change those for one. And then I can show you how you want to operate it. Instead of mess with the scale of your static body,
Yeah.
or you can mess with the dimensions of your mesh.
We'll go to the national practice here. Instead of looking at the you can see the size. So you also those instead. And make sure that if you don't see your mesh data to be the same, not your mesh, your quadrant to be the same scale, you might just reload that quadrant one. You know what I mean? You get rid of this quadrant. Should work properly now.
All right. So we're going to add a little world environment node in here. So your world environment, I think we might have messed with it a little bit in the 2D stuff, but 3D is definitely a bit different. So we're going to go to environment over here on the right side. You'll see it's empty right now. We're going to do new environment. We're going to click on that, and then it gives us a bunch of options. But we're going to go to background. Instead of clear color, we're going to go to sky. Then we're going to click on that. Then you'll see a sky option over here. And we're going to make a new sky in that empty. So this is, and then we're going to, under sky and the sky material, we're going to do procedural sky material. So that's a few things to go through. Does anyone need me to go back through all those little options you just did like that? Yeah. All right. So I'll clear this and I'll go through it again. So we go from environment to new environment. We'll click on that. Then you'll go to the background tab. Then instead of clear color mode, we're going to do sky, which will make a new sky tab beneath it. We're going to go to sky. Then we're going to see sky over here, which is empty. In the empty, we're going to click it. We're going to do new sky. You guys caught up still? All right. Then we're going to click that sky. Then we'll see sky materials empty. And we're going to do new procedural sky. You can do other ones. Procedural sky I do because this lets you do more in engine. Then finally, click on that procedural sky we just made. And from there, you can just mess around with these options here to get like different colors for your background. So you have like your top colors. That's like the color your sky goes towards. So I can make that like pretty blue. Then I can make the horizons. I can make it like a darker color. That gets a little weird. So you see it updating in the background as you're doing it if you just want to see how it looks. So you can just mess around with it a little bit. Just to get something that looks good enough for when you try and actually get the game working. And then over here in the ground, similar sort of thing, you can change how the very bottom stuff works. And then horizon color goes towards the horizon. So there. So that gets us something there. And that will mean that when we get this running, we'll at least have something that will be showing on our stuff. But one more thing we'll want to do is we'll want to go back to our player real quick. And then we'll go to our mesh instance. And then I believe if we click on it, yep. So if you guys are following along, you go into your player, go back to your mesh instance, click on your mesh over here, and then you'll see a material option. And in material, we're just going to do new standard material. Click on that. And we're just going to give it some sort of color. I believe you go to albedo. Yes, albedo. And you'll see like a color wheel here. And you can just mess around with it. I'm just going to make mine like green. And that'll just be how my player will look. And then if we go back to our main game scene, that will update for our player. Do you think we can go through that one more time?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to really see the camera?
I think it also depends on the version you go. I only noticed this like today. So, like, really just take your player. If it's on there, yeah, it should be on. Yeah. So with all that finally done, I believe if we open this up, we should at least see something. So let's try and run this. It'll take a second. So we're in the little game. Movement's going to look little weird now since you need to do some more settings. But we should be able to move around. Mine almost seems like it's lagging or something. That's a little weird. But at least it does render and everything. And if you're wondering why that material down there is blue when you not set the blue, it's just because it needs to be given a material. Otherwise, it just needs to color the sky. So that's also why we did the sky, so at least it will have some sort of color. So just like how we did for the mesh of the player, you can go ahead and do that for your static body down there if you feel like it.
Where is ground?
With ground.
Under world environment.
Oh, world environment. So under sky.
Yes, ground.
Go back. Click on that one. Click on that one. Seafood. And then and that one for the colors. All right. And since we still have 20 minutes, so I'm going to get us to work a bit more on the camera, since what we have right now will just handle basic movement stuff, but it looks a little weird, because we have to do a little bit more work of our camera. So I'm going to head back to my player, and on my camera over here, I'm going to make a new script for that. So with your camera selected, do attach script, and this is going to be player camera script. We're going to create that. And I don't think we need this process function here. Let me check my notes. Nope. The process function can go, though we're going to use the ready function. All right. So to start off with, we're going to go to our ready, and we're going to do input dot mouse mode equal input, I believe, yep, mouse capture. So this little bit of code here means that whenever you start the game, your mouse will be stuck to the center of the screen and you won't see it anymore. So that's very useful for FPS games. That will also make it so our camera movement will actually look proper. Because before you might notice it wasn't really like looking around since it wasn't stuck to the middle of the screen. So this will fix that issue.
You just added a script to camera 3D character body.
Yeah, add it to the camera 3D, yeah. Okay. And you can call it whatever, but this is the first part we have in there. So from here, we're going to add in the script that will handle for the camera movement. Since before you remember that we handled for our character rotating around, but that's only around like I guess like the upward axis, like I'm trying to say on the y-axis or whatever. So this will handle instead around the I think the z-axis. Yeah. So essentially it's just for looking up and down. So we're going to do function input event. And then similar to before, we're going to check that event is input event, then mouse motion. And then we're going to do like rotate like how we did before. However, instead of doing the up, we're going to do left. We're going to do event dot relative dot y. And then like before, we're going to do at times like a little bit like something to make it much smaller for sensitivity. And that will handle that sort of stuff. So let's see. The rest of it's recasting. All right. So if we save that, if we go back to our little main game, we can run current scene on the main game. And what we should see is we should be able to start looking around. Oh, mine does it. It's just very laggy. Yeah. Oh, wait. Okay. Mine like seems to almost recover. It's being a little weird. I'll have to try and figure out why that is. Usually it's not that laggy. Maybe the new version of Godot is a little like that. Okay. Yeah. I originally made this stuff in 4.2, so I might have to convert it a little bit to make sure it looks more smooth.
I have like a whole bunch of fog on mine, so that might be my.
I don't know, maybe I'm missing a setting or something, I'm setting this type, it seems to be
What is it for rotate?
And I think you do the same size settings, so I know some of mine just freaks out a little.
Is it because you're streaming?
Yeah, that's also probably playing into it as well. Let's see. Yeah. I think it's a little bit better. Are you guys also able to move around using your keys? Alright. So I assume it's just the thing on my end, but that at least gets us a character that moves and looks around. So we have around 15 minutes left, so we can try getting started on a raycast. So how many of you guys are familiar with what raycasts are? All right, so I guess I probably don't really need to explain so much. It's basically just a line that detects stuff in front of it. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a little node for our player to do it. Oops, that's why I didn't see that. So we're going to go to our player. We're going to add a raycast. So raycast 3D. And I believe we can just leave it labeled that, right? Let's see. Yeah. And because we're going to be doing it based on our camera, like where it's looking, we want that to be a child of our camera. So we have that. And now we're going to look over here on the raycast stuff on the inspector side. So you'll see it has target position, and we're going to be wanting to mess with this. So we don't want to be looking down. We just want to be looking straight where the camera's looking. And I believe because our camera's currently looking in the Z direction, I believe when we mess with the Z, that should make it so it starts looking in that direction. So like say -100. And usually it adds a little thing that shows you where it's looking. Let me see. They might have changed this up since I last checked.
It's there, it's just covered by the Z-axis line.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, yeah, I see it also. That my position was off. That was also causing it. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So you just want to make sure your target position is like something like in the negative Z direction. I would make it a decently high number, since that'll just basically be as far out as your raycast would be able to detect. Think of it like, say, using this for like shooting stuff. That'll be like the range of whatever you're shooting for it to actually hit stuff.
Good question for you. So if we parent the raycast, oh, I'm wondering, so if we had initialized it as a child with the camera, it would present it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
So in this case, yeah, I forgot to. So you'll need to apply your transform.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our little raycast here. And because it's working based on our camera, we're just going to do it inside the camera script. So we'll open that back up. And then let's see, I'll get that stuff back out. So we're going to make a new variable to detect when we're able to fire, since we'll want some sort of like wait between shooting, even if it's not a reload, just so people aren't like shooting to the point they break their own PC. So we're just going to call it var, and then I believe it's ready to fire. And we're going to initialize that as just being 1. So whenever that variable is 1, that will say, hey, you can actually go ahead and fire. And to make that work, we're going to do if event, and then .is action pressed. And we're going to do shoot, and ready to fire equals 1. So let's see. I'll wait a second to do that part. So we're going to check to see if our raycast is colliding. So we're going to get that just using the cache symbol to doing raycast.3D. And then we're going to do is colliding. And then we're going to do if raycast dot get collider dot is in group enemies, and then finally raycast dot get collider. Whoops. Dot take damage. And then we're just gonna set that just to like 1 for now. So what this little bit of code here will do is that whenever you shoot, it will check to see if the raycast is colliding with something. If it is, it's gonna see if that collider like that is hitting, if it's in a group called enemies. So enemies just like stuff you want to be hitting. And then finally you'll take that collider that's in enemies and it'll tell it has to take damage in function of make for it. So that's a bit of code. And that will take a bit, we'll probably work on it more next session. We'll have any enemies, because the enemies will be in that group, and that's how we're going to have a function for taking damage and all that. And let's see. Yeah, the other stuff I would work on from here is I would add in particle systems and the like, but do you guys want to continue working on this stuff, or do you want to just take a break and work on some other stuff right now?
If I could have like one that actually.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Change that people to like equal.
But yeah, that might just be it for me to do this today, just because going into enemies and particle systems will take a while to do. Since particles especially, you have to do a lot of making meshes and choosing your path, well, not having velocities and the like. But
I might have to run this session on my desktop. My computer cannot handle it.
what's going on?
I added a whole bunch of fog, so yeah, it's running at like 1 frame a second.
You know, fog was originally used to hide system limitations. Was it?
The
latency is fog setting.
Response probably. Like that was
Yeah, I've noticed that too. I think it's like when I originally made some 4.2, there was not that much. I don't know what's causing it. I'll have to figure out what's causing it. I'll see if there should be some stuff to check performance.
yeah.
But
I was just gonna say, it might be because of, like, if it's, I know earlier we got there mentioned about like the delta time, it might be something like that.
yeah, my guess is like the input thing. I know when I made this before, it probably might look a bit differently with how who's calling it. So there's a chance that by now the input function is calling it so much it does not like it.
That is the downside of working on an engine that has constantly changing.
Yeah. So
Use gold source.
all right. So I'll go ahead and end the stream for today, since the rest of this can probably be us just work on game jam stuff, and I'll see if I can find a way to improve that speed. So no problem. So I'll go ahead and end this. There we go.